Welcome back to the Follow D Money podcast. This is the last episode of the season, and I have a friend of mine that I met through kind of a business relationship, I would say, through a transaction kind of. But Julie Henson of Coburn Place is here. She is the director, vice president of development, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I met you when we wanted to donate money after an event that we had. And when I met you, I was like, you're the one. I said, you're the one that we should talk about Coburn Place with everyone else. I thought that you would be a great person to give information about it. And we can learn a little bit about yourself. And welcome.
Yeah. I mean, I thought you all were the one, too. I saw you walk through our double doors.
Yeah.
And I was like, I must know these men more.
Good.
Who have done this incredible event for us.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes and brought in an incredible gift to support families and individuals at Coburn Place.
And we loved it. You were very informative about the history of Coburn and the plan that they have for these families. I want to start this podcast off like I do all of them. I want to know your history. Like, where are you from and how did you end up at Coburn Place?
I am from Indianapolis.
Okay.
I went to Ben Davis.
All right.
So West Side, Best Side.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to Purdue.
All right.
I went to Purdue for my undergrad and for my master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got done with grad school...
What'd you go to school for?
I went to school. My undergrad is in sociology and my master's degree is in poetry.
Whoa.
Follow D Money. That's what I always say. If you want to make a lot of money, go and write poetry.
Okay. I would say if you want to go make a lot of money, go and follow D Money. I want to write a quick poem.
Yeah, my master's degree was in fine arts.
So do you still write poetry? Do you write poetry?
I do, but one of the best advice that my thesis advisor gave me was that you should consider your writing and your poetry in the same way that someone who has a bunch of tropical fish in their house considers that. Like a hobby that is very interesting to you.
Yep.
Like you are the one that is most interested in your art.
Yes.
And nothing else matters. You shouldn't do it for publishing. You shouldn't do it for acclaim because there isn't any. But there is. But it's...
Poetry has like intrinsic value, right?
Yes. Poetry is like sending a message in a bottle out into the sea and hoping someone else finds it.
Yes. Okay. Well, then after college, so let's talk about what you did out of college.
So between undergraduate and graduate school, I worked at United Way of Central Indiana with Read Up, which is a literacy program that they had.
Okay.
And I was in AmeriCorps, so I was a volunteer worker.
Yep.
And then I went back to grad school, and while I was there, I did a loose leaf writing program out in the community.
Yep.
And the thing that I missed the most when I was in graduate school was working in the community, was doing community-driven work.
Yep.
And being a part of something that wasn't just conceptual. A lot of academia, and this is important. I think academia is an important sphere in the world, but a lot of it really is cerebral, theoretical. And I really missed actively solving problems and making a difference.
Yep.
And so when I left, I knew that I wanted to get back into community work.
Yep.
And I knew that I wanted to do something that was really cause and effect, something that was really like I can experience transformation within the community.
Yep.
And so I started working at Coburn Place in 2015.
Did you seek it out, or was it like someone reached out to you?
I did. I'm sorry. I did apply for the job.
Okay.
But I knew it was like, and I actually didn't know what transitional housing was. When I looked at what Coburn Place when I looked at the website and I was doing research for the job, I started as a volunteer coordinator.
Yep.
I was really like mystified. Okay, what is transitional housing and what does that mean?
Right.
And when I went on a tour and understood, oh,
Right.
this is housing. This is private apartments.
Right.
And then when I understood, oh, this is for families who've experienced domestic violence. Oh, I know what that word means. I maybe didn't understand what the language in the field was when I was looking on the website. And then when I was there in the midst of it, I thought, oh, this matters.
Yes.
Having private, sustainable housing for 2 years for families that are homeless and have experienced extreme abuse.
Right.
And so one of the things when I first started was this feeling of wanting to be able to simplify what we do to people and make it less cerebral,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I think that a lot of people, because we're not an emergency shelter and we don't
Right.
use words like shelter at Coburn
Yes.
Place because we're not that.
Yes.
It can kind of feel like, well, what is it that you do? Oh, what you do must be very complicated, but
Right.
it's not. It's not at all.
Not. And I will say that when we first came to Coburn Place, I think that the tour that you gave us simplified everything. And you opened my eyes to what transitional housing is. I had no idea myself. But
Yeah.
you did a very great job. That is a part of the reason why you're here, so that you can explain it to people listening, and it will give them a little help into understanding why they're helping you guys do what you do.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of different housing that folks who are experiencing homelessness can access.
Yeah.
And emergency housing is the one that people think about the most. And that's like if you need a house or if you need a bed within 24 hours, the idea is you can get to that bed.
Oh, okay.
And so we work with incredible emergency housing organizations that provide that to survivors of abuse.
Yep.
And, it's a beautiful, necessary service.
Yep.
But the tricky part with that is that oftentimes because there's a huge flood of people who need that emergency housing, you can't stay for longer than 30 to 90 days.
Wow.
And so that's just not a lot of time for families to stabilize, heal,
Yeah.
rebuild, even be able to think about anything other than the trauma that they've experienced.
Yep.
And so transitional housing offers longer term. So we're not permanent supportive housing. It's not forever.
Yep.
But in 1996, there was a study that said, what do survivors of abuse need? And what came out of that was this concept of longer housing support.
Yep.
And so Coburn Place, the flagship building that we have, is in an old school. In IPS 66, Henry P. Coburn. That's where we get our name.
Yep.
And there's 35 apartments and what used to be the classrooms.
Right.
And families sign leases and they can live there rent utility free for up to 2 years.
Dang.
And so 2 years is a lot longer to say, do I want to go back to school?
Yep.
Is my career something that's going to be able to be meaningful to me and support the financial needs that myself and my children have? It's enough time also for you to really be hit with the wave of what you've experienced.
Yep.
One thing that we find is that when survivors move into housing and they have those immediate basic needs met, that's when like the emotional effects of trauma and homelessness and abuse really set in.
Right.
And so 2 years is time for people to really sit with what they've experienced and start to be able to dream again, dream about what you want your life to be, and believe that you deserve safety and you deserve safety for your kids, that you deserve to be able to set the terms in your own life.
How in the 2 years, how does Coburn make life seem normal for those families when they're at Coburn Place?
Yeah, I think one way is that housing is never tied to services. So your housing is yours.
Right.
And you have, there's a whole menu of support services that you could come to. You could come to parenting class. You could come to DV support group. You could
and all these are offered at Coburn.
At Coburn, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Or right now in the pandemic, offered virtually on Zoom. But I think that providing families with a place that is theirs, with doors that lock, with bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. And this is something you know a lot about, Stretch.
Yeah, I do.
You and your friends just came and set up 2 apartments.
Yes, we did.
And I'm really interested to hear what that experience was like for you.
It was really amazing, and I don't know how much you guys offer that experience to people, but I think experiencing that with the team and with Jim and Fred and Simone, I think it opened our eyes to the experience of Coburn, and it definitely made me want to dive in deeper into what you guys do. Being able to set up an apartment and make it personal for a family, we put our own touch on it, and it's basically what we did was walk into an apartment, and we were able to put furniture in it. We were able to put food and canned goods and paintings and light fixtures and things like that to make an apartment livable or seem like something that could be called home immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing that you guys offer that, because a lot of times when you think of shelter, you think of a bed.
Yeah.
Or you think of some place that you go and you're sitting at a cafeteria line, and that's what you think of. And I think you guys at Coburn do a great service to families and making it feel welcome right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything that surprised you when you were going through the checklist of what to put in the apartment where you thought, oh, this does matter? This is something that makes people feel like they're at
right
home.
away as a man, just the feminine hygiene things. Like it's important that they have those and like accessible to them. And the fact that you guys have pantries full of everything just ready for them it's incredible. And I mean, yes, we had a checklist. I think it was 6 or 8 different things where we had to check a list of essentials for the apartment, and then we just kind of threw our own extra touch on certain things.
Yeah.
And we could
I love the ducks. I love the ducks that your group
that was
brought
my
in.
idea, and I stole them because Fred went to Oregon, and they're the ducks, and I know he was going to take them, so I took them right away. But we could not compete with Simone, though.
Simone,
we couldn't compete.
Your apartment was beautiful.
Thank you.
And the survivor that moves in is going to feel at home.
Good.
Simone's apartment.
I know. I know.
I mean, she
go
put
ahead, say it so she can hear it.
She put a bed skirt on.
She did the closet. Like, she had the closet organized. Oh, my God. Yeah, she killed us.
I thought that your team had a chance until I learned that Simone was on the other team. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a different competition.
Yeah, it was not. It was not fair. I'm the one that put everybody together. So I was dumb and putting her on one side and then us 3 guys on another side. Yeah, it was my fault.
But I liked the guest and home team.
Yeah.
I liked
that.
We
were the Follow D Money team, and then the guests. Like, I have Fred Jones, Jim Norman, and Simone Rigaud, like close family friends. And it was great. I do want to ask, what is the criteria? So how do you decide when a family is accepted into Coburn?
Yeah, I do. But I do want to say that, you going in all those pantries and seeing them stocked and, completely full of whatever survivors need, that is because of the community.
Oh, okay.
Those are all community donations.
Right.
And
Nice.
I think that it's like this podcast and like all of you and your support for Coburn, it's the community support of canned chicken and bed skirts that you're tired of looking at, and mirrors and furniture and diapers and feminine hygiene products,
and coffee makers
and toasters, and like the list, and shower curtains and shower liners, and it goes on and on and on. Those are things that individuals have dropped off at Coburn Place one by one,
very, very
that
loving.
make it so that there's this huge chain of love and care that goes into providing home for survivors. And it starts with people dropping things off that might seem isolated and, these individual one-by-one things.
Right.
And it ends with groups like yours that are racing the clock, racing the clock to get this all configured to make people feel at home.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Just the sense of community, like when you know that all that stuff. And I can't express enough how many things were in those pantries. Like you had a pantry of all furniture. You have a pantry of all canned goods. You have a pantry of all linens. You have all these things.
We have a knick-knack closet.
A knick-knack, and we were in the knick-knacks. I think that's where I got the ducks.
Yeah, it has to be. It was such a good find. The ducks are what I would put in. I feel like that's what I would do. The ducks were good.
Yes.
The ducks were good.
They were a good touch.
Yeah. So families typically come to us from emergency shelters. So I think one thing that's important to...
So Coburn is not a first step.
No, Coburn is not an emergency shelter. Okay. We just don't have capacity. We do have a community-based housing program.
Yep.
That right now there's 35 families on site in our apartments in the old IPS elementary school. And then we have 93 families that are living out in the community. And that is with rent and utility support.
Yes.
And then, those families have access to all of our services and advocacy. Yep. But the beautiful thing about that is that they are transitioning in place. So they're getting put directly into permanent housing.
Okay.
And we're helping with rent and utilities while they stabilize.
Wow.
So those are for families that have lower safety barriers.
Yep.
But those are also for families who have lower financial barriers. Okay. That they, potentially you already have a full-time job. You already have a support system that is going to be able to hold you and care for you in those spaces that you need assistance. But what you don't have is a security deposit and first month's rent.
Right.
Right. And, those are things that are huge barriers to people fleeing abuse. Mm-hmm. But lowering them makes everything else more straightforward.
Right.
But neither of those options are quick enough to be counted emergency shelter.
Okay.
So if you are in danger, in immediate danger, an emergency shelter is still going to be the best place for you to go.
Okay.
And after you get stabilized, and that might be with family and friends, that might be at an emergency shelter.
Yep.
Then you would be able to be referred to Coburn Place and be on our wait list for whatever of those housing options you select.
How long is the wait list right now?
The wait list for on-site housing is 6 months to a year.
That's not horrible, right?
It's horrible when you think about the fact that at an emergency shelter you can stay for a month to 3 months.
Yes.
And so when you think about, okay, I've fled with my kids and I'm safe for a month. And then what am I going to do for the other 11 months before this longer term housing? And so, once families come to us, often they're coming to us with whatever they can carry because they've been shifting through emergency shelters, staying at one for 3 months, then another for 3 months, back and forth.
Yep.
And so what your groups did was give those families back what they lost when they fled abuse, right? Where they can walk in and they have completely
what
home.
They need, yes.
Yeah.
In a home.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we can't control that. We can't create more space where we don't have it.
Yeah.
And we know that transitional housing option is really critical for a lot of survivors who are in danger and are not going to be able to be out in the community. And so what we can control is that when that number, when your apartment comes open for you, that what you're moving into is nothing less than home, right?
True. What are the plans? Do you guys have any plans for expansion? Because if it's a situation where it's a 2-year wait or year and a half, expansion would be great, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys have like any commercial real estate deal, like something going on?
Yeah, in the next 5 years, I would say expansion is going to be critical
Good.
for Coburn Place. Like a lot of organizations that work with survivors of abuse, the pandemic has been really challenging.
Right.
We know that in Indiana, the murder rate for domestic violence victims increased by 115%.
Wow.
We at Coburn have seen a huge surge in need. And coming out of that, knock on wood, in 2022, the priority for us is stabilizing the capacity that we had to expand upon during the pandemic. So in 2020, we served over 50% more individuals and children than we did in all of 2019. And then this year, we surpassed that 2020 number in June.
Okay.
And so we've just seen more and more and more need.
Yep.
And that has really stretched our advocacy team, who are our first responders, right? They are the ones that are frontline working with survivors all the time. It has stretched them so thin that over the next 2 years, really trying to build up that capacity to support those advocates. And then saying, okay, now we have the stability after this huge tsunami of need because of the pandemic and the kind of stressors that unleashed on families who were already experiencing domestic violence or were vulnerable to it. And then I think we will absolutely look into expansion.
Okay. You said earlier that they signed a 2-year lease.
Yes.
Is there a program or anything going on to where they're like the families are like motivated to get out? Like, is there a way that they can leave before the 2-year lease is up?
Yes. So they can leave whenever they like.
Okay.
So the 2-year, I guess I would say that this is such a good question that you bring up, because I always say these leases are like anybody's leases. And that's really important because even though survivors aren't paying rent and utility, they're still building a rental history.
Okay.
And what we find with survivors is that 99% of them have experienced financial abuse. And that typically looks like it's like they have no paper record. They've never been able to work. They don't have anything in their name. Right. It's like they don't exist. Or their abuser put everything in their name and destroyed their credit. Yeah. And either one of those needs a time of rebuilding of a paper trail to be able to move through the world in that financial capacity.
Yeah,
what's your credit score? Will another landlord rent to you because you have a good rental history?
Yep.
And so those leases are the same. They're doing that even without rent and utility.
Yep.
However, the thing that is different about them is when I sign a lease, if I move out before that,
you're paying something.
I'm paying something.
Yep.
That's not the case for our families.
Okay.
So some families leave within 3 months.
Oh, wow.
They come in, they decide what they really need is that community-based housing option. The safety barrier has been lowered, and they're going to move to that, or they're going to move to actual permanent housing. Yep. Other families stay the full 2 years. That really is based on what are their housing barriers and what is their what's their plan for their life.
Right.
What is their definition of housing and success, and how can we support them in getting to that?
That is a beautiful thing, just to create that paper trail for them, to create that reference for another place to live. That is really, really, really good. I want to ask about services and things available to the families, because I think that there's a lot of trauma going on, and I don't know how you guys handle like therapy or anything like that. Is it offered there as well?
Yes. So all of our services are trauma-informed and voluntary. And voluntary services are really important for survivors of abuse who have experienced systems of power and control.
Yes.
Right? That's the thing about domestic violence, that's it looks different for everyone.
Yep.
But the thing that it has in common is that it stripped away power and control from the victim.
Yes.
And so we don't want survivors, as they come into our services, to have a new model of power and control where in order to keep their housing or in order to get pantry items, they have to XYZ, right? It's not actually empowering.
Right.
What we want is for families and children and adults to feel empowered as the captain of their own life.
Right.
And so all of our services are voluntary and all of them are trauma informed, which is a really key part of what we do in our philosophy of care. And it acknowledges that everyone who's coming to Coburn Place has experienced an enormous amount of trauma.
Yep.
And that trauma changes a person. But it also, there's so much to learn from people that have experienced trauma. There's strengths that come from surviving.
Right.
And so it is a way of reframing experiences to focus on the positive and give people a chance and a time to heal and feel empowered. And that comes from therapy. Yes, we have that in support groups on site, but then we also do individual referrals to individuals. It comes from different parenting classes, different different cooking classes, different just fun things that you might do. It comes from one-on-one advocacy, which is our most popular service.
Yep.
Having someone that just walks with you and, in whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, we have some advocates that will play basketball with survivors, or they'll go for walks or they'll go to the grocery store together. They'll, along a few years ago, we had a client come and they were from a rural area. And so they didn't have transportation. And so learning the Indigo bus route was really intimidating.
Oh, yeah. You got to have somebody go with you on that.
You have to. Yeah. And so the advocate of that client, they rode the bus together until she felt confident to be able to do that.
Nice. And there's also a daycare for the children.
Yes.
That they're taken care of.
Yeah. So we have children's services. It's not a 24-hour daycare, but it runs 4 to 8 Monday through Thursday. And then during IPS calendar breaks, it runs from 8 to 8. And again, you all just had the kids come out for a field trip.
Yeah, they had a good time.
Yeah. So our children's services area and programming is designed for kids that have experienced abuse and have experienced trauma. And it's a place for them to be kids, first and foremost. It's a place for them to play and have fun. And it's a place for them to heal from what they've been through.
Yep. How does Coburn make the families feel safe?
Well, there's safety and then there's the perception of safety. And both of them are really important, right? And so safety itself is you can imagine, is very important at Coburn Place.
Yeah, what is
We're gated. We have cameras. You can't come on site without a appointment. Yep. If you guys came and even if they knew you, if you didn't have an appointment,
they'd be like, nope.
Yep, they'd be like, maybe they'd call me.
Yeah. I know somebody.
Yeah. But even when I come unexpected, if I go to work on a Sunday, and to drop something off or pick it up, I call ahead and say, hey, I just want you to know, because that front desk associate, part of their job is making sure that the building is safe for families. Yep. And I think that goes a long way also for that sense, that feeling of safety. It is that feeling of nobody's coming on here without permission. Right. And I can feel that my abuser is not going to be able to sneak in somehow.
Yeah, I felt the sense of security when I went. And that's really good. But it didn't seem like a prison or anything.
No. This is home for 35 families.
Yeah.
We've had, so all of the doors are coded to a specific survivor. So we don't have, you probably noticed this, that we don't have keys, but it's like
the door
the code. Yeah. And, but we have had survivors who, even though they know I'm the only one that knows this code, I set it, myself and the property manager are the only ones that know it. We've had some survivors that they were still anxious about it.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we've actually installed different locks for survivors who requested that.
Wow.
And so we want everything we do at Coburn Place to be survivor-led and survivor-centered, and say, safety, the feeling of safety might feel different for you, and you might need different things to be able to be relaxed. And in terms of advocacy, one survivor last year, the only place that she felt comfortable doing her meetings with her advocate was at 8 a.m. behind the dumpster in the back lot. And so that's where our advocate met with that client until that client felt safer to be able to be indoors or to be in an office or whatever that looked like for them. And so I think safety, on a macro level, there's a lot of systems in place to keep survivors safe.
Good.
Safety planning is a big part of our services.
Yep.
But I think on an individual basis, we have to work with individual survivors to help them be able to have that peace of mind.
Yeah, you can help them get a sense of safety.
Yeah. And we can't set the terms for that. We have to be amenable to what they need, what feels good for them.
Yep. You use the word advocacy a lot. I was wondering how important it is for people to volunteer there.
So important. So important. Our volunteers and our supporters are why the mission exists.
Right.
They are setting up apartments. They're donating things for apartments. They're providing financial support that means that the lights stay on.
Yeah.
They're doing programming for kids. They're letting kids come tour their sound studio.
Mm-hmm.
We would not exist without the community that also believes that everyone deserves a safe home.
Yep.
And that's what keeps me coming back to this work and this role is seeing Coburn Place often has a problem for as long as it takes us to type an email to the community to ask for help. And I think that is so powerful to. There have been times where we have been out of food on the shelves, and I put a single sentence out somewhere, and the next thing you know, there is a room full of food from other people.
Yeah, that speaks volumes about the community, though.
Yes,
it says a lot, and it gives hope to the sense of community, I think.
Yes. And the belief that the community has that everyone deserves a safe home and that they can help survivors.
Yeah.
In a world where it often seems like we're powerless to really change things, the community that believes and partners with us in this mission is changing lives every day.
Right. I just want to say, too, that going into Coburn and going into having a relationship with you guys, I was kind of skeptical being a male going into that environment. And how can you encourage more men to help you guys and volunteer and do things like that? Because I think there are a lot of males out there who just assume that it's kind of a place for
issue.
Women, and and it's like we don't have a space there, and like they don't want to see us. But that was not hardly the case anytime I've been there.
Yeah. Well, I would say that you are doing that.
Yeah.
By talking about your volunteering and by being such a vocal and visible supporter, I think you are encouraging other men to come volunteer.
Yeah.
I could share about the fact that we serve men, right? And men can be victims of domestic violence and experience domestic violence. It looks a lot different for women, but we serve everyone. So we would serve men, women, people of different sexual orientation, people of different races and religions. But I think your question is really good. I get it a lot from male volunteers of just, am I allowed to be on site?
Right.
And I would say that one thing I hear a lot from our male volunteers is the powerful experience of being an example to kids who might not have safe men in their life.
Yes.
And to see different examples of what it looks like to be an adult.
Right.
And I think that because Coburn Place and domestic violence can often seem like a woman's issue, something that women are actively working to solve, there can be a lot more women volunteers.
Yeah.
But this is a community issue,
True.
right? Domestic violence affects all of us.
Yes.
And it affects whole communities. And men volunteering is powerful for kids, for the women who are living at Coburn Place. I can't say enough about that. It really is life-changing.
It can change a perspective, kind of.
Yes.
Just because maybe some of those situations, they don't have any positive male figures.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
Please, men, go out and help Coburn Place.
Yes. Please
volunteer.
come volunteer.
Yes.
We won't always make you lift heavy things.
But they might.
But we might. We might. That's so true.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you some questions about you.
Fun. I can't wait.
Okay. I do want to know what is your personal plan in the next 5 years? Do you plan on continuing with Coburn? Do you want to move up from being a vice president of development? Like, what is your plan?
Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if I'm like, my boss, are you listening? This is my official letter of resignation.
It's like, this is my last day at Coburn.
Yeah, so,
I came on here to announce that.
So my last day will be 5 p.m. today. I love Coburn Place. I don't have any I love let me get my thoughts together. The longer that I have been at Coburn Place, the deeper and more nuanced the mission has become to me.
Okay.
And I think it's a rare thing to have your work and your vocation mix and to really, really believe in what you're asking others to believe in too.
Yeah.
And that is special to me about Coburn Place. And I have felt so grateful to have my career be at Coburn Place for 6.5 years. And I feel like I'm just getting started in that work there and in the work of what's next, right? There's always no day is the same.
Yeah.
You never know when Stretch is going to walk in and change your life, right? Every time you think, okay, I know what the community support looks like.
Yes.
Next thing you know, you're on a podcast.
Yes.
And I think that is rare. It's rare to have that.
I will give you a nod because I think that when I first met you and you showed us Coburn Place, your passion and your love just it shined through.
Oh.
And I mean, I think that's important doing what you do because the families there, the people who volunteered, they feed off that.
Yeah.
And I think that they should be very happy to have someone like you in your position
Aw.
or just being in that building. I'm serious. It makes me want to do more working with people like you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. How would you define success?
Oh my gosh. This is such a great question because at Coburn Place, one of the first things that we ask survivors to do is define well-being for themselves.
Yes.
And then to set goals around that.
Yeah.
And I've never actually thought about it for myself.
Ooh.
I feel like success for me equals contentment.
Okay.
I think that I'm the kind of person that always feels like the next thing is the real thing,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I'm always like, as I'm starting something, I'm already finished with it and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And my husband and I are under contract on a house, which is exciting.
Good. Building a new house.
Purchasing a very old house.
Oh.
No radon, though. No radon.
No radon.
That we know of yet. But we close at the end of this month, and I have had to, thank you, knock on wood that nothing else happens for it. But I have had to remind myself as we get closer, like, you're in your life right now. Like, your life is not starting when
you're in it.
When you're in the house, or when you have kids, or when you whatever that looks like. Yes. And I think because I can be so, and with my work as well, like we have goals for 2022 that as soon as you make them in 2021, you're already in 2022 not meeting those goals. Yeah. And so I think for me, when I think about success in my own life, it's like this groundedness of feeling like I'm here, I'm present.
Right.
I'm present in this moment and in the circumstances surrounding me right now. I'm not fearful of the future, but I'm also not like excited living for whatever that next thing is.
Okay. That's good.
Having never thought about that question before.
I thought you did a good job.
I'm going to be thinking about it as I fall asleep tonight.
No,
be
I
like,
think you did a good job.
No stretch. It's my 401k. I changed my mind.
How can people reach out to volunteer at Coburn?
You can do it on our website, coburnplace.org.
Yep.
Or you can email our volunteer coordinator. Her name's Drew. Yep. And her email is Drew, DREW, @coburnplace.org.
Yep.
Or you can email me, Julie, @coburnplace.org. And we'll get you to the right place.
I like it. Are you ready for a wild question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. What is it?
I think you got it. If you could, do you like board games? Do you play board games?
Yeah.
All right. If you only had one board game to play for the rest of your life, I need to know which board game would you play and name two people that you could play it with. But you can only play this game and with these two people forever.
Okay. My husband somewhere is like, I already know the game she's going to say. So there is this game I recommend. I'm not getting paid for this. There's no swipe up. There's a board game called Wingspan. And it's
Wingspan. Now you're going to pick this game forever.
I'm going to pick this game forever.
Okay.
My husband's rolling his eyes like, Stretch, she's going to pick this game forever. So this game is, you are literally just building an aviary for birds.
Okay.
And there's like thousands of bird cards that you are like, I have a coon bird. I have a lark.
Yeah.
I have a nuthatch. You're like learning the birds as well.
Oh, okay. So a bird watcher would love it.
Yeah. It's like bird watching without having to wake up at 5 a.m.
Right. You're bird watching on the table.
Yeah. And it's like, it's such a cute little game. Like it has a bird feeder that you roll it's like an actual bird feeder that you put dice. It's so darling.
Right.
It's such a darling little game.
It's a darling
and it
little
has
game.
like, you have little eggs.
Okay.
And you have little, like what birds eat.
Okay.
If you like birds, you'll love this game.
So you like birds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I was going to have like I like to learn stretch, but no, I like birds.
So you have to pick two people to play it though.
I'm going to pick my husband.
Yes.
And I'm going to pick my mom because my mom is like, she never knows the names to anything. And she calls everything Gooblet. And it's worth it just to play any game with her.
Relief.
She doesn't even know she has no concept that she's the comic relief. But she, like, when we play Ticket to Ride with her.
Yeah. I love Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride's
that is a fun game.
So fun.
Yeah.
And there's the wild card.
Yeah.
She calls it Caboose. She calls it Gooblet. She calls it.
I didn't even know what this Gooblet is. What is?
It's completely a made up.
Just a term.
Becky Henson word. She like. I would have to have play with her because.
Okay.
It's too much. It's like she gets so into Wingspan. She gets so into it.
I need to play Wingspan.
You do. But
do.
she has, at the same time, does she know how to play?
She don't even know.
She'll be holding up these birds and she can't, she's like got her bifocal, like, okay, Robin.
So are you trying to get all of the same bird or are you trying to?
So you have a grassland, a wetland, and a forest
so
part.
They have to fit where they need to be.
They got to fit in their environment.
Okay.
And some of them have bowl nests and some of them have little ground nests.
Okay.
It's such a fun game. If you like birds.
I mean, I think they're cute.
I tried to get my old boss into this game.
I like sparrows and pigeons.
But some people have really intense feelings about birds.
That is very true. I have almost like a sister who is deathly afraid of all birds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What's your game?
My game would be Monopoly. I would play Monopoly.
Who would you play with?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would play with my cousin Shark. I'll do anything with him. He's coming with me with everything. And probably my dad.
Okay, but are these, with Monopoly specifically, are these the people that you are like, you want to go hard against?
Well,
I mean, like,
the thing is these people are like intense, like thinkers.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's going to be, it's like a strategy type thing. Like some people you can just play and they don't, like me, Monopoly is never just Monopoly.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Like it goes beyond Monopoly. I'm like making deals on the side about, I'm not gonna pay you if I go that way, but if I'll give you this one, like
yeah.
Those people, and my dad's super cerebral guy.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to just see him get mad. He gets frustrated. So I would just love to make my dad mad with all my deals and stuff.
Yeah.
And my cousin Shark is so calm. So it would be a challenge to get him upset. And, I think, and I could hang with them for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Even after some really cutthroat Monopoly rounds.
Yes. After we start throwing blows on the table, we can go and have a drink and totally forget about it. Yeah. Well, I am so glad you came. And
Thank you for
it was
having
a
me.
great season finale talking about Coburn. It was amazing. And this season we had an amazing array of people, and you guys topped it off.
Oh, thank you so much for all you all have done. And your listeners have been such a huge part of that. I feel like the amount of support that you all have raised at your event, but also just like posting something on Instagram and just immediately raising so much funds. We're just so grateful for you.
We appreciate it, and it's not going to stop. This is a friendship that is going to continue on into 2022 and so on. But thank you so much, Julie, for coming. Thanks, everybody, for listening this past season. PD, John, Rambo, Viva la Puerto Rico. We'll see you guys, but please go to YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, rate and comment on the podcast. Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
You know what? I forgot to ask. What is your New Year's resolution?
What's my New Year's resolution?
I told you mine.
I know you had such a good one. I feel like my New Year's resolution is to find a hobby. It's to
bird watching.
I found it. Yeah.
I found it for you. You have a hobby built in.
Yeah, have me back on in 6 months. I'm going to come like dressed in complete khaki, binoculars, have a little logbook of all I saw a European sparrow yesterday.
Yes. Julie's New Year's resolution is to become a bird watcher. Thank you. That was very quick. I needed that.
Now I have to do it.
Happy New Year, everybody. See you guys next season. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Coburn Place. We'll see you guys next time.